Episode 655, Brain Candy Podcast, Susan and Sarah Louise.
Susan and Sarah Louise. What if I just changed my name legally to Sarah Louise?
I would be so happy.
I should have. Well, you know when you change your name back after getting divorced, and like I should have just or maybe when I get married again, it'll just be pick one. It'll be like Sarah Louise Rice. They're like, you don't want to change your name? Nope. Here's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I like the sound of this.
Yeah.
First of all,
yeah.
Before you begin,
yes.
We had a Brainiac ask a question that I wanted to remember to say to you.
Oh.
Because remember we were talking about the nude beaches?
Yes.
Michelle, the Brainiac, wants to know, she has near her home a nudist colony, like a community.
Yes.
And she wanted us to talk about nudist communities. And then she's like, they even have kids there. And that is something that I had never thought about, because the only people I've ever seen on TV at these places are all like old and disgusting and not youthful in any way. So what are your thoughts? Let's get this started with a bang.
Yeah. The thing that has really stood out, I remember I watched a documentary about a nudist colony with Louis Theroux.
Theroux.
He's so cute.
He is cute. Little so British nerdy guy.
Oh, I love him. And he went to a nudist colony, and one of the things that really stands out is the lack of attention on the actual nudity and how it's almost the last thing that you think about. And I think about the rates of teenage pregnancy and sexual assault and even STDs in countries where there is more sexual education and where things like I don't know, being comfortable with the body are kind of taught at a younger age. This is like in Scandinavia countries. This happens in like Norway and Finland. Like they have very, very low rates because it's much more. It's not as like stigmatized. It's not as
puritanical.
Yes. And I think that we're looking through this maybe with the lens of like what naked means in a like U.S.
Oh, you're saying we're
culture.
Sexualizing.
Yes. I think we're sexualizing because in the same way, I don't know, like the untouched people who maybe never wore bras and nobody was like, ooh, titties. Like it was just like no big deal because they grew up with it and it's just like another part of the body. And it's just normalized. And so I think the problem is maybe when you are at that age where children are very curious and they recognize that how they do things is different from maybe how other kids do things. And it would be hard for them to, I think, go to a school where, it wasn't a nudist colony and kind of take some of those same behaviors. I think there's just a difficult age.
And that's your only problem with this scenario.
Because what are you going to say? It's not like, is there a problem with, I don't know. It's hard to say
philosophical points that you're
philosophical.
making.
But if we're in the culture and society that we live in right now in the United States, and those people have to
as a member of society, we all have norms that are expected.
Yes.
And laws.
Yes.
And furthermore, we have holes in our body. Even uncontacted people wear like a diaper situation.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
The vagina is a hole into my entire body.
Right. Yeah. And let's keep that covered and
we don't want
hygienic
seepage.
Reasons.
Yes.
Oh God.
See?
For real. Yes. It's terrible.
Not just about liberation. There are actual
I can
practical.
Never wear no chonies. People who go commando and no underwear. I can't do it.
You haven't said chonies in a long time.
I know. I say it all the time when I'm talking about underwear.
IRL.
Yeah.
Okay. So that I just wanted to get out of the way.
I do really see a problem with children being exposed to just being exposed and being exposed too. You know, I definitely think, but I
All right.
I don't know. It feels...
It's complicated.
Yeah. I know that, you know, and every family is different, but I feel like if it were me and in my family with my children, when children got to the age where they start asking or like learning about different parts, I think in it I also would want to teach my children that there's like the boundaries around that. And I think in order to teach the boundaries around what is your private area, just for you and just for that, you'd have to model that. And you'd have to like start, and that would be the age where I would be like, okay, nobody's taking baths together anymore. Nobody's like, you know, everybody's putting some clothes on. It's not like family naked time. I wouldn't be a naked family. As much as I love being nude.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a naked family.
Yeah, I have to keep telling Adam because he's like real into nudity, and he'll wander around with this giant wiener hanging everywhere.
This is
what?
Because now I'm like, yeah, but Lincoln and Adam can be naked together. Who cares?
Well, but Lincoln doesn't like it, and he's always like, "Dad, put pants on," you know. Yeah. And so I'm like, Dad, he's not a little kid anymore. He's
right.
You gotta like change. You gotta modify as they age.
Yeah. And then, it's like the respect, like they're learning because it's what you're learning about at that time that you become very like, this is how it is. No, you put your pants on because I wear pants. And like, I just learned that and I have to wear pants where I go to school. So if I have to do that, then you're breaking the rules. And they can't recognize that different rules apply in different situations, different people, things are nuanced, blah, blah, blah. They can't do that. So we have to kind of have across the board. Like,
I even feel that way about swearing. Like my mom was talking about how Lincoln told her that all the kids in his class swear. And she's like, that's so terrible. She's like, I know you hate when I say nowadays, like how, you know, how people are nowadays. But I'm like, to me, it's not so much about whether he swears or not. It's more teaching, like, where is words are appropriate.
Yes.
And what is disrespectful. And, you know, because to be honest with you, if he were to swear sometimes, I wouldn't be worked up about it as long as it were within the confines of respectable behavior.
Yeah. It's almost like, first, you have to be really strict with the rules.
Yeah.
And then you
exactly. Very well put. Yeah.
That's how.
Yes.
I've never been a parent, but I have sure as heck been a camp counselor many times.
You sure as heck have.
I run a tight ship those first 2 days, and then fun counselor comes out. I'm like,
really? That's interesting. Let's have fun.
Yeah. Oh, I am so strict in the beginning. So strict because you can't come in all loosey-goosey with the rules because then you'll never get them back.
That is so true.
I come in so like, we're not going to do any of that in here. And then I follow through on the consequences. And then I was a very strict counselor. And then they know. Right. I'll never forget the one time where the little girl, they were 13 and they were like a very difficult age. They were the worst cabin. They had to have like multiple people come in and talk to them about being nice to each other. And there's one girl I could not get to follow dress code. And so finally I was just like, no, I'm going to put a trash. I was like, if you can't dress appropriately, I'll choose what you wear. And so I put a trash bag over her outfit that was inappropriate. And I said, I do not know how to dress myself.
Wow, you're like a real ball buster.
Well, she learned.
Jesus.
She needed a little bit of that. She was like the queen bee, like mean girl who like she wore a juicy jumpsuit and brought her purse. You remember when Dooney and Burke was really big? This was like that time. Imagine pink juicy jumpsuit on a 13-year-old with crop top at camp, which all the way already terry cloth and dirt don't mix well. And a little Dooney and Burke like mini purse. Everybody who grew up in this time period knows exactly this look I'm talking about.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh no. We are not. This is not going to be the guy. This is not going to be the model for which all the rest of the girls in the cabin are going to then follow. Like,
and then Sarah started playing like the bugle at 7 a.m., getting them to do calisthenics.
Yes.
I
was like, if you guys can't say nice things about each other, I'm going to make you write essays about nice things about each other. So I did make one person write 500 words about nice things about her cabin mate because she kept saying mean things. So.
Oh my God.
I know. This cabin needed it. They were insane. Let me tell you, they said the most hurtful things to these girls. I couldn't believe it. It was like Mean Girls on fucking steroids. None of this is what I want to talk about today. But anyways.
Well, I'll tell you what I did want to talk about, and that is how freaking great Caraway pans and cookware and bakeware are.
I love it. Shout out to my Caraway gigantic Dutch oven stovetop thing for being the vessel that I used to cook the crab boil that I had for my brother's birthday that he said was his favorite meal of all time.
Oh, shout out to Caraway Cookware for making that possible. Yes. I was just telling Casey, one of our brainiacs, that because she was asking me about it, like, what's the scoop? Is it really worth it? All that. Yeah. I'm like, this stuff is like a forever piece that you will buy and never have to replace for your kitchen. Yeah. It is somehow magically non-toxic, but also non-stick. Mm-hmm. And so things just slide right out of it. It's such high quality. You can choose colors, like you can have it match your kitchen, which is adorable on top of being amazing. Their pans, they're, like Sarah said, the Dutch oven. I use, of course, all the bakeware for my muffins and banana breads. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. Visit carawayhome.com/braincandy to take advantage of this limited time offer for 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit carawayhome.com/braincandy or use code braincandy at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern. Yes. And I just updated our website. All of our partners' codes are there. If you hear something on the show and you forget, you can just go to the website and find it. And whenever you use our codes and URLs, it helps us so much. And I'm so thankful every time you guys do that.
Yeah.
And now, before you carry on, Sarah, I do want to take a moment and just say, I would like to have like a moment of appreciation for how awesome Sarah is.
What?
I keep telling her lately because I just been like struck by it repeatedly recently. I think it was sparked because we've been watching that dumbass Challenge Untold docuseries on which Sarah's presence was basically erased, even though she was on 10 goddamn torturous seasons. Yeah. And it is like you aren't even on the show until, I guess, episode 4.
Am I the only woman who's won first place twice? Maybe not anymore.
What do you mean by first place?
Like,
well, because it used to be teams.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, teams, maybe it's just partner or individual. Because I think maybe Cara Maria won twice.
Well, no matter what, you are an MVP and like one of the most incredible challengers of all time. And one of the most incredible people of all time. And it sickens me when good people are treated like garbage. And it really bothers me that you were not included enough. And when you are, it's as an accessory to toxic behavior of people I won't even name. Yeah. And I just think you're a really special person and you deserve so much more than you get.
You're going to make me cry. It's so nice.
I'm just an ambassador of the truth over here.
Should be so lucky to have a friend like Susie who just like always makes me feel seen and validated.
Yeah, so people are like leaving negative reviews like, why won't you let Sarah go to camp in peace? It's like, listen, I love Sarah.
Like, roll her eyes at me sometimes. It's my favorite thing about her too. Just shh, everybody.
But anyway, you're great, and I just wanted you to know it's been on my mind and on my heart, and I think you ought to know it.
Thank you. You make me feel so good and so seen.
I hope you really feel it, though, for real.
Didn't make me seen. I do. I really do. I'm very, very lucky to have people in my life that I have chosen and who, like, see the real me. Shout out to Eli and his wonderful family, too. That, like,
yes.
I feel like they get to, like, they're, like, see the real Sarah and, you know, It's nice. It's a really
I hope
nice
they
thing.
value you forever and know what a treasure you are.
Well, I'm just going to keep making my homemade pita bread. That hopefully is...
That's your secret.
And they'll keep inviting me over for great meals, and I'll keep bringing them pita bread.
Okay.
Yes,
well, whatever
yes.
it
You're
takes.
so sweet.
I love
So
you.
sweet. I love you.
Anyway, it's your show, so go ahead.
Do you want to learn some stuff?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Some fun things in the news. Did you see that NASA sent a I don't know what you call it, a thing, a device, a probe, a spacecraft into an asteroid
Oh, yeah.
to bump it off course in like
Yes.
the most sci-fi, save the world, Independence Day
Yeah.
like,
it was
theme
like
thing ever.
cinematic.
Totally. They were like,
Yeah.
okay, guys. I think what happened is like some people at NASA watched that movie Don't Look Up and they were like, uh-oh.
Yeah, for real. Like,
Turns
hey,
out nobody cares about this. And I think that people also didn't get it when they watched the movie.
right.
Uh-oh. We should probably
Yeah.
put a plan together because this might not
Yeah.
be good for us in the long run.
Because I heard like one of these NASA people on NPR talking about it, and I felt like they were trying to convince the audience, like, no, for real, guys, like asteroids hit the Earth sometimes.
Right. They're like, remember the dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Like this could come and we can't do anything about it. And then we just like, we'll take selfies with it. It's
So
like,
when they
asteroids coming.
did it, was it like full blown success, or was it like, oh, we have some things we gotta
No, full blown success.
no kink?
This was it was success within a very specific, like, I don't know, range of we chose the, yes, exactly. We chose the asteroid. Like I'm on the team. But if my boyfriend can say fantasy, like talk about with all of his fantasy football players, like they're on the team, then I talk about with NASA because that's
Yeah,
my fantasy team.
Okay.
So just me and all the other astronauts. So they chose an asteroid that was like based on its size and based on the math they did that they could successfully run this thing. They called the asteroid was called Dimorphos. And they ran the DART, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, DART mission, which also, do you think that they like, which do they come up with first?
Yeah, right.
Are they like, we got to make a really good acronym for this? Like the DART mission, it's such a good name for it. So yeah, they wanted to alter the path of the asteroid after like slamming into it. And so they had to pick one that was the right size, and it's about, what does it say? 2,560 feet across.
Wow.
Yeah. That's it. It seems big, but I feel like that's not a very big.
How big was that dinosaur one?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. It says like, how big was the dinosaur one? I don't know if we could even.
I think they do know the answer to that. Yeah, they do.
Do they?
Yeah, I remember reading it, which you would think I would have picked up on, like what they ate during one of these books that I read about dinosaurs. Remember when I was like, what do those guys eat anyway?
She's like,
Buffalo?
actually, I do know the exact size of the asteroid that killed us.
Like it was smaller than you think, but I think it was bigger than that.
Yeah, it feels like, because they picked a small one because you have to. I think it's very, very obviously it's very expensive to send up something that's you're just gonna like crash into it,
right?
And we don't have the testing equipment on the asteroid to even determine if it was successful. The only way to determine its success, we do notice that it changed course, but it's going to take a few weeks for all the data to come back to see how far it went off course. But so far they say that the math they did is right. So if they have to just calculate how much we would have to increase the size of the object that we're sending into this thing. So they picked one where it was like, I don't know.
Miniature.
Like we could scale
like
this
realistic.
up, but also it's large enough to show that it could, like.
I can't believe it doesn't, it just like It's just a shove in another direction. It's not
right.
obliterating it. It's just
like bink. Like,
yeah.
just like, I was listening to a comedian talk about this on Wait, Don't Tell Me. And she was saying, like, imagine that poor asteroid is late to wherever it was going. Can you imagine the asteroid getting there and being like, you will not believe what happened to me. I was just walking along, minding my own business. Something just came along. Boom.
This is going to be like the dinosaur question where I sound really stupid, but like, what is the thing that makes an asteroid go? Where does it get its energy? Is it like fire?
I think.
Here we go.
I don't. So asteroid and comet, I do know those. I think a comet is the one once it enters into our atmosphere, and when it comes into the atmosphere is when you can see the tail. I think like it. I don't. I mean, but
wait,
like,
what is it? What's a meteor?
There's difference. We have to look this up. Asteroid, comet, and meteorite. One of them is it breaks off of something. I think a meteor might be the one that, or maybe the asteroid is one that broke off something. We should look this up. We definitely need to look this up.
You guys don't have to tell us what we got wrong. We already know all of it.
Asteroid, meteor.
Just save your breath.
And comet. Don't worry. We're not the first people to look this up.
Yeah.
So a meteor is simply an asteroid that has landed on Earth or attempts to land on Earth, but is vaporized by the Earth's atmosphere. So meteor and comet, same thing. It starts as an asteroid, then it ends up as a meteorite. Then asteroid is a rocky object smaller than planets that are left over from the formation of our solar system. What? When the cloud of gas and dust collapsed to form our sun, much of the remaining material went into forming the rocky terrestrial and gas giant planets orbiting our star. Smaller dust fragments that never made their way into planets were left behind as asteroids. So it's basically garbage, leftover stuff from the formation of our solar system. It totally is. And so comets are also composed of material left over from the formation of our solar system. However, asteroids formed towards the inner regions of our solar system where temperatures were hotter, and thus only rock or metal could remain solid without melting. Comets formed at farther distances from the sun, and they have temperatures that were low enough for water to freeze. Okay, comets, cold. Asteroids, hot.
Wow. Remember the C, comet, cold.
This is good.
Okay.
They did say this in the article I read, too, that this is an asteroid, so we were able to... It's like just rock, like that hot rock, but they are worried that if it is a comet with ice on it, I'm saying comet because I know that now, it's something with ice on it, that we couldn't use the same math, that they don't know if it would work as well.
Oh.
I don't know why, but... And they also said we could get this was a solid asteroid, and some of them are very loose and can kind of split and break apart. So if we bumped it and then it shattered and it broke into more pieces,
that could get worse. For Pete's sake,
just rain down
I'm glad there are smart people who can figure this shit out because I'm lost.
Yeah. It does seem like we haven't had a NASA win in a while.
I know.
There's been really no reason for me to like bust out the sweatshirt.
Oh,
NASA,
they could use your support, Sarah.
Well, I was kind of mad at them after the spill that when I found out, I watched that documentary, In the Darkness of the Valley, about the nuclear plant that was in the neighborhood I grew up in. Well, yeah, it was a NASA testing facility, and the NASA team, whatever, I think it's JPL and NASA. And JPL is like Jet Propulsion Laboratories. It's right near there, too. And they are trying to get it named a historical site because then you don't have to do any cleanup.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Right. So I'm mad at them for not wanting to clean up their spill. This was like the largest nuclear like spill or disaster in like the U.S. history. And nobody knows about it because they just was like, nothing to see over here, folks. And like,
God.
And then they're
That's
like, no, it's historic. It's fine. And it's really bad.
Oh, man. Sarah and NASA are breaking up, you guys.
I know. So, like, I needed them to, like, come through and, like, do something good. For
wow.
once,
I hope you guys can bury the hatchet.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's
And the
just
nuclear
a different
waste.
team, you know? Right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is an aside, but I saw this image of frogs from Chernobyl, I believe it was, and they're black.
Yeah, it's
the same species that's supposed to be green.
Yeah.
Why are they black?
It's so bad.
It's really spooky. It's like something to protect them took all of the, or their species recognized that nature wasn't that color anymore, and they just changed to match the environment. Oh my God. How? That is freaky. I don't have any information on that, so we can't talk anymore about that.
No, but I hear what you're saying. It's so disturbing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's not disturbing.
Yes, please.
Therapy.
The least disturbing thing.
The least. It is so not disturbing.
Man.
You need therapy.
I will
need
say
therapy.
sometimes it does. You got to like dump out the closet.
Yeah.
And like drawer before you organize it. But don't worry, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
And the therapist will help you with that.
Yeah, man. Everybody needs it. Everyone needs someone to talk to. And now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a great option if you are looking for some solutions, looking for some guidance, and especially if you would prefer to do therapy from the comfort of your own home, and have that flexibility. Mm-hmm. And this is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. And when you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/BrainCandy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/BrainCandy. Such a great option for you if you're thinking of going to therapy, which you should be.
Yeah, everybody
Speaking of therapy, how's this changes everything with Therapy Jeff?
It's great. I love it. I love talking therapy. It's cool to hear another therapist's kind of techniques and like their tools of trade, or even like, metaphors and analogies of similar things that we both have that we get to kind of talk about and break down. And it's so helpful. And he's got such great like bullet point, like ideas that kind of, break things down and make things pretty simple and straightforward. And every single episode I leave going, oh my God, this does change everything.
Yeah, I bet you learn a lot.
I learned so much. Mm-hmm. And it's so fun.
Yeah.
And now I'm not as, we're like on episode 7 now. And now I don't get as nervous with him. In the beginning, I was so nervous. People
really?
were
like
oh my God. Yeah, because I'm like, I really respect him as a therapist, as a person. And like, I just want to do a good job. I'm talking about something that's important to me. And then when I get nervous, I just talk a lot and then interrupt all the time. And so people were like, this Sarah, she's nuts. And I'm like, no, I'm just nervous. And this is my coping strategy. So.
Well, now
it's great. Now
it takes a minute to get that vibe too with a co-host, especially when you're not even in the same room.
Right. And we've never even met in real life.
Yeah. So
we have to have like a fun meetup sometime.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, you need to meet that guy sometime. But I'm glad that it's going well and people are loving it.
Yeah.
We all
love
need help.
it. And it's kind of fun to I joke, I'm like, Eli's getting like a cheat sheet. Like,
Yeah.
I talk about relationship things like with me, like, my past and things that I worry about, or things that I work on, or things that have whatever it is, boundaries, all that. And he's like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good.
I'm glad he's fine with it because you're an open book.
Yeah,
and I bet some guys would be like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, we talk about it too. We talked about like what
are you comfortable with? Yeah,
yeah. And there, I talk about so much. There's so much that never makes it on there. That's just special for just us.
Just special.
What
else are you going to teach me today?
I know you're going to love this.
Okay.
Did you know that there was a serial killer database? You probably did. There is a man who has putting this together. He is a forensic psychology teacher at Radford University named Michael G. Amond? A-A-M-O-D-T. up.
Okay.
And since the 1990s, he has been creating a profile of serial killers, including their timeline, life history, basic demographic information, and all the information about their crimes. Yeah. And the headline of this, first drew me in, as they are supposed to do. But then I found some really interesting information in it. So it said, and this is something that we've talked about on here. So I always love when studies come out or information comes out, and I'm like, we've been talking about this for years. There's evidence. This database is showing that there has been a strange decline, I think for us, not so strange because we've talked about why, in serial killers since the 1980s.
Yeah.
That they peaked in 1984. That was peak serial killer heyday. And now steady decline. But the part of this that I kind of pushed back on was the article's explanation for why.
What did they say?
So the researchers had put this decline in this article. It says they put the decline down to several factors. Part of it could be there's better detection by law enforcement, and so serial killers with financial motives are less likely to go undetected. So they either get caught before meeting the definition of a serial killer, or they put off murdering altogether for financial gain instead, which we've kind of talked about how things are switching to a different kind of crime.
Yeah.
But it said there's also been a decline in opportunity for serial killers to find their victims because there's less hitchhiking.
That's so specific.
What? I was or there are way more. I think it's the media. It's the everything is on camera. They didn't mention one thing about technology.
They didn't?
Nope. Not one time.
That's insane. Of course, that's why. Because maybe they're putting that under the umbrella of detection, where they said the police are better at detecting.
It says better detection by law enforcement.
Right.
But that seems
cameras are everywhere.
It's better policing. And then they said it's not just better policing that led to the crime. I'm like, no. I don't think the cops are the ones who are.
To the degree to which that is true, I wouldn't put it on specifically police officers. I put it on the technology that we have with finding DNA and the ability to know who did something because of that kind of advancement. Not like these sleuths are getting real crafty or something.
Yeah. And they said that it could be because we have increased jail time. This was basically
please.
I'm did a cop write this?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
For real.
Exactly.
So that kind of was something that I wanted to talk on here about and discuss why that decline has happened.
In fairness, it is remarkable how frequently hitchhiking did happen with these crimes.
Right.
It really was a thing.
Yeah.
So
this was before Uber.
Yeah.
My mom hitchhiked to the hospital because our car broke down when she went into labor with me. And was picked up by a Volkswagen Beetle full of 3 boys.
From me?
I know I've shared this before. Have I not shared? She was picked up by a group of guys who were coming back from a Bob Dylan concert. And I think it was Bob Dylan.
Is this Mad Libs? What are we doing right now?
They all crammed into the front seat and sat in the front seat. My mom laid in the back and they drove. My mom said it was the most silent car ride ever. Nobody knew what the fuck to say. So they all in a yellow Bug drove her to the hospital.
This is insane.
And that was how I got to the hospital when I was about to come into the world.
I am so glad you made it here to Earth.
Me too. It didn't get killed by one of these serial killers that were really prominent the year I was born.
Yeah. And for real.
I was born peak serial killer time.
And it does make sense to a certain degree because you know how they say that trifecta of means, motive, and opportunity? I think for a lot of these guys, opportunity is the part that's missing. They want to, and they have the weapon, but when are you just going to pick up some rando
Right.
and fucking kill them? So hitchhiking was handy for those guys.
Yeah.
For those would-be killers.
Right. One of the other things I thought was really interesting was the change in the percentage of female serial killers.
Tell me.
So in the 1930s, roughly a third of serial killers were women. Then it dropped down to 6% since 1980. And I think even that, there's some things that we can kind of unpack and maybe infer from that.
What?
So also in the information, the breakdown of the crimes, it talked about who the victims are more likely to be. The victims for women are more likely to be family, and male serial killers are non-family members. And female killers are more likely to kill for, they said financial gain is the primary motive. I would disagree with that. I would say freedom and
financial freedom and stuff.
Like getting out of whatever situation they're in. And male serial killers are more likely to kill for their own enjoyment.
That's fucked up.
Really fucked up.
But
so what I think this has to do with more... Oh, what do I mean by serial killer?
A serial killer that kills her family, because if it's all at once, that wouldn't be a serial killing. That's a mass killing.
Yeah, they said... so the FBI's definition of a serial killer is people who unlawfully killed 2 or more victims in separate events.
Okay.
So I think even if you were to like kill, you know,
your brother
and then come back and kill your father.
That's so weird though.
That could be
Who's doing
considered that? Lizzie Borden, I don't know.
She did. That's true.
Because I feel like if you were to look at the laws around women's rights, that we would see a decrease in serial killers and female crime.
Yeah,
like
it's that word motive. They don't have as much of a motive now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As we saw an increase in rights and freedom for women.
Okay.
I think
well,
that's
it looks like there's going to be a few more coming up because rights are going down the toilet.
I mean, right? It's like that kind of. Ooh, that's actually like.
Well, maybe they mean because frequently when women do kill, it'll be their kids. Like, but they usually do it all at once, not like over. God, I'm just saying.
Right. 6%. That's very few.
Yeah.
Of the killers out there.
Right.
Dudes, why the fuck are you murdering someone?
It's ridiculous. Don't get me started. This is what really I felt the other day when that headline came out about the, systemic and awful abuses within the women's soccer organization.
Oh. Yeah.
Just basically, not exactly like the gymnastics, but along the same lines. And I'm just like, really? Guys?
There's no place sacred and there's nothing safe. Nothing.
My God, stop the raping and all the fucking nonsense. It's insane.
The only thing that is the remedy for this is more women empower and more women, respect for, like, this is, we see, anytime that I do lectures on sexual abuse or sexual assault and we go over like who are the perpetrators, you can't predict who will do this, and there isn't a one-size-fits-all model, but we do see higher rates of sexual assault and sexual abuse in cultures and in communities where there are less rights for women, or women are seen as more property and have less value. Mm-hmm. So we need to give women more value, not more value, just value.
Right. My God.
Just the same value.
Yeah. You mean like they're humans?
Giving guys some other ways to deal with their anger.
Yeah, it's really disturbing.
It's a really, really bad combo when, like,
I don't even know how they're coming up with that 6%, to be honest, because
Right.
When's the last time you saw a serial killer? Golden State was probably the last one that was like captured or...
Yeah, it said from 2010 to 2018 was the last years with completed data in the database at the time of like the last update.
Yeah.
And at that time, so 2018, there were just 43 serial killers.
Right, so what? One of them was a lady?
And 23 who killed 3 or more. So of 23, it doesn't even fall into, that's not even in there. Like, I bet none.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I bet you the 2 women that are just those kind that like, she killed her mom one day and then went to bed and then the next morning killed her dad. It's like, that's not what we think of
and then
when
you
we think
find
of
out
serial
that they've been
killing.
like, keeping her locked in a basement, abusing her for years.
Right.
Or like that, like the woman who like killed her I don't want to call it her sexual abuser. We should not use that term. Because it's not hers. We should not personalize people who are we only do that with sexual assault. Her rapist, her whatever. No, it has to be the person who assaulted her. It has to be.
We would say like her murderer or his murderer, wouldn't we?
We might, but what that kind of it is victim blaming language. It falls into the category of that because for the victim, it does something. You wouldn't say my
burglar.
My burglar.
Yeah.
Because it's your own body that's been assaulted. It feels like and it's important for the healing process to not personalize that.
Could we just say the rapist?
Yes.
Okay.
For sure.
So just change the article to the.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. That was brought to my attention after I was speaking at Georgetown University, and it was for Biden's campaign thing that he was doing for stopping sexual assault on campuses. And so we were talking about sexual abuse, and I was sharing my story. And after I gave my speech, one of the other presenters came up and and it was a male too, who was a male survivor, and pointed that out. And I thought it was really interesting that the male survivor recognized how that was identifying with the victim and was like, no, that's him, not me.
Yeah, because it's like possessive.
Yeah, and like but the female victims after survivors, it's almost, it's just different. I just thought that was interesting. But he pointed that out, and ever since then, I've really made it a point because he's like, you're letting that person win. You're letting that be, in a way.
Yeah, it's too empowering.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so to switch it is kind of like taking a little bit of that power away and kind of distancing yourself from that role of being like a survivor of an attack instead. But
whenever, just going back to the database, whenever you were reading about it, did it just give the same old things that are predictors of
didn't
this?
Get any.
Oh,
it more looked at patterns of behavior with the actual crimes themselves. Like they broke down the crimes, and I think it was a short article that was kind of just focused on the decline. That's why I was like, did it comprehend this? Is that what we're talking about? But they also talked about like some of the other breakdowns of crime. So like how many of them ate their victims? 1.8% of male serial killers did, and 1.3% of female serial killers did. Those numbers are so close that it almost makes me feel like, okay, that's like the
margin of error
fetish that,
right,
or like part of the whatever it is. And then the other one is, I'm apologize too, like. Sorry for all this gruesome talk for people listening. Necrophilia occurred in 3.4% of male serial killers, but only 0.4% of female serial killers because Come on.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Good grief.
Yeah. And they also have whether they drank their victim's blood. And
Oh,
0.7%
Sarah.
of male serial killers did, and 0.4% of female serial killers did.
What the
Which is like that one person who like thinks they're a vampire.
Right, who watched
like
Twilight.
Because
and
like
got
if you
really
look at the
into
numbers, they're... And also it wasn't specific on whether this was per year or just... This, are we counting the same numbers? Like, say you're a serial killer, you kill one person in 2010 and you kill one person in 2018. Are we counting that as
Yeah, they would.
one? Or are we counting that as separate ones? So in the 80s, it said there were 150 serial killers who had killed 2 or more victims. So if you have 150 and 0.07 are male serial killers, that's one dude. That's one vampire.
That's one vampire.
That's it.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that.
And the other one is probably like his accomplice, like the female who was like,
okay,
I don't know, into.
Yeah, she's
What's
just
that
trying to
vampire
impress her
movie that
weird
came out?
Twilight boyfriend. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What's the one? Interview with a Vampire. Yeah, they were just really into Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt at the time, and that
took it too far.
Yeah, it was just like.
Gosh, okay.
Fantasy.
Well, thank you for that info.
So, I really pushed back on the part that I was like, we got to talk about this, was the why, the explanation for why, that like good policing and longer time in prison was what was doing this. I feel like they've just switched. And they're not, it's like we've said, they're not killing people. There's
way more mass shootings now.
They're destroying them financially, or, what did you say, there's way more what?
Mass shootings now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is another thing that I wonder, I would imagine that the motivation is different. Mass killings feel like the motivation.
Rage.
Yeah. They're, and almost in the way that you've talked to me about some of the serial killers you've interviewed, for people who are maybe new to the show, yes, you heard that correctly. Right. Susie interviews serial killers.
Right.
And so you are like the expert on this. They seem to have more of an urge where it's not driven by anger or rage. And it feels like mass shooters are often angry at not the individuals themselves they're killing, like society as a whole, or something systemic that these are casualties.
Exactly right. But I bet you, I don't know this, but I would imagine that some of those people, those that we call them incels, the people that feel like they're not getting out of life what they've been promised as their male birthright, like, sex and whatever else. Right. I bet you they would have gone down the serial killer route maybe in the 70s or 80s. But now it's just sort of like, it's almost a trend, and there's a lot of copycatting and like egging on the internet and stuff like that.
And in a way, that was kind of going on in the peak of serial killer, like in the 80s. Like they say, we were they
were glorified.
Yes, we absolutely. And then you saw, that's totally, it's just switched.
Yeah.
And maybe it's more of like an online presence. And I wonder if that sense of community in a way.
It's a dark thing online. I loved the book. It's not about murder and stuff like that, but it's called It Came From Something Awful. And it's about these online communities, 4chan and all these things where they congregate and then feed off of each other, and then they become nihilistic and oftentimes violent. And it is fascinating because it's important to know about it, so I was really glad I read it, but it's so troubling. Yeah,
it really is. Oh, what's it called again?
It Came From Something Awful. I think there was a website called Something Awful, like way back in the day, and so it's like a play on that.
Oh, God!
Did you frequent that?
Yeah.
No.
I didn't frequent it, but I mean, there was that time where it was like before junior high. I want to say like 5th, 6th grade, where like kids are just curious anyway. And it was right when all those really creepy sites started popping up, where they allowed, like, I can't even say these things out loud.
Gruesome.
Yeah, like really gruesome photos, and they would, like, categorize them by, and I remember just, like, not being able to unsee that stuff. That really,
and so
have
this
to protect
book
your eyes
traces the rise of these communities from that period on the internet.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a dark, dark period.
Yeah.
It's the same as time as that, most hated man on the internet.
Right.
Ugh,
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing that I want to tell you before we wrap it up. This is a fun one that I think you will... maybe it'll make us frustrated, but what doesn't? Turns out that Kelly Clarkson and Nietzsche were wrong.
That's not something you hear all the time.
What doesn't kill you does not make you stronger.
Right. Okay. Oh, right. I'm glad
Nietzsche
we've settled
made
that.
famous by Kelly Clarkson.
I was gonna be like, her life wouldn't suck without me?
Right.
Okay, so what doesn't kill you does not make you stronger.
Right. There was studies that looked at the measurement of satisfaction that was collected pre and post trauma. So one of the difficult things in studying trauma is that you can't make people experience trauma. So all of the data collecting you do is memories of it or just self-reports, things like that. So for this study, and I don't know, I want to say it was 1,200 students that were studied. They took undergrad students. This was funny. They wanted to find people who were at the peak time of trauma in their life. And that was the time I was like, because when I first read it, I was like, it just said they wanted to pick people who were, quote, at peak trauma time in their life. Okay. But then they didn't say what age, and then they had to reread it, and it said 1,200 undergraduate students were chosen. I was like, oh, okay, got it. Undergrad students.
That's peak
that's
trauma?
The most, I guess. Like, I would like to also have an explanation. Like, I could do a whole thing talking about that. But they measured their baseline sense of self and worth and satisfaction around life before college, and then I think they waited 2 or 4 years or something like that, and then they measured it again. And some people who were participants really experienced some serious trauma, like people had friends who had died in drunk driving incidences or lost family. And there are cases where people grew from the adversity, but when they looked at the measure between perceived growth by participants and their improvement in psychological measures, there was no correlation. So we have this idea that if I go through this hard stuff, I will be stronger. But the reality is we often don't come out of those situations stronger. In fact, we just come out of them. Our goal instead should be returning to baseline. They were talking about in the article how this is a very dangerous idea to have, because what it communicates is suffering is good in the long run, and people who have experienced trauma are stronger than those who haven't. And what that can do is that people who are still struggling with trauma, which is so many of us, the majority of us, it's fucking trauma. People who are still struggling months or years after feel weak or feel like if they haven't experienced some kind of growth, because we have this idea that if you get through this, it's going to make you so strong. Yeah, we can build some resilience, and you can have,
you can learn from experience.
Yes,
maybe.
there was learning done. There was maybe
that I get,
but and they can grow from it, but it didn't make you better able to survive trauma later. It does not make you.
I mean, I can't say I'm surprised, but I'm glad that they're saying that.
Right. And it said that the researcher said, nor should growth be thought of as a goal for everyone. For many people, just getting back to where they were before the trauma may be an ambitious enough goal.
Okay.
I think that's a really good thing to remind ourselves.
Yeah.
That, this isn't, we have this, you have to do better and be better and grow from it. And like, no, man, just like surviving, not thriving over here. Like, just try to like,
right. Low bar lifestyle.
Low bar lifestyle, Shout out to those gals at the Home Edit for teaching us, inspiring us.
Yeah, it's so true, man. Because, that whole narrative. I hate platitudes in general. Like, everything happens for a reason. No, it fucking doesn't.
Fuck off. Yeah.
And people love that one too, which I'm sure it maybe is comforting to some people to think like, I'm going through hell right now, but hopefully I'll benefit from it. Maybe that's
my mom always likes to say, it's all part of the plan. You can't do anything about it. Funny thing is the plan is written. I'm like, well, I fucking hate this plan. I want a new plan. Who wrote this plan?
No.
This isn't my plan.
Talk about puritanical. That is a puritanical mindset. Right. That's called predestination.
Yeah.
And it can reap really troubling outcomes. I'm not saying for your mom. I'm just saying for people that I know who subscribe to that viewpoint. Because that's what we were talking about in book club, about how then if you think your salvation is predetermined, then you will try to present yourself as upright and virtuous, because then people will think you're among the elect, is what they called them. And so then it becomes this thing where people pretend to have their shit together, and they pretend like everything is great and I am perfect and I don't. And it's a toxic mindset.
Totally.
Within religion,
Yeah. Yeah.
Or not. Anyway, so that is interesting, Sarah. I'm glad that you have shared that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you just so you know.
Like you're just doing fine. Like
that's fine.
You do not need to grow or get stronger from anything. You just have to survive. You just have to do it. You just have to be. You're doing great. Crushing it. Winning at life game.
That's part of why I love our documentary club and book club, which you guys should all join on our website for any price you want. Because it is a community of people who say this kind of thing where it's like, we are all trying our best and we want to be the best versions of ourselves we can, but you do not have to be perfect.
Nope.
And come as you are.
Even if that's in your underwear.
You are enough. Sometimes Sarah comes pantsless.
Yep. It's okay. I'm not the only one.
You are enough as you are is like a powerful, rebellious, revolutionary message.
You are enough as you are.
Especially for women.
I'm going to make that our new doodle. You are enough as you are.
For real. Because every message is like, you know me, I'm fucking pumping my lips full of hydraulic acid thinking that's going to solve my problems. We all fall for it. We all buy into this thing that I just need this other thing and then it'll be great. And so you need to remind yourself, no.
Good is good enough.
Good enough is good enough. Anyway, wind it down. We covered so much. Nudism. My favorite quote of the whole episode was, "Terry cloth and dirt don't mix." And you said it like it was so obvious, but it kind of is. Don't. Once
anybody who's thrown a towel down on a dirt
big mistake.
Huge. You just try shaking that thing off later.
Good news, bad news. Good news is we might be safe from asteroids. The bad news is Sarah hates NASA.
I was like, where's she going with this?
I just made it up. I was like, what's the bad news?
Bad news is we still have no idea what a comet is, and we have nothing. We don't know. I took in undergrad my most traumatic time in life, according to science, but not.
Right.
I was like, also, you could just add, like, you kind of missed some of the... when I read that, I was like, oh, obviously childhood, right? Childhood for everybody, childhood. No?
Right.
And then I was like, wait, it's not 30s, right? Not everybody else has trauma. What? Okay, sorry. Back to the article. What the heck was I talking about?
You were saying, like, when you saw it, you thought it has to be childhood.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then I was saying, I was saying in college, yes, my most traumatic time in life, when at undergrad, I had to choose a physical science. You have to take a science. So I signed up for astronomy or I guess it was astronomy. I dropped that class and switched to oceanography the next day because that class was so...
It's horrible.
When they told me about the size of everything and how I was like, nope, can't even grab. I do understand that we know less about our ocean, which also was mysterious. And I got the lowest grade in any class ever in that class, surprisingly. Like, for
Me too. I got a D in astronomy.
Oh, well, I dropped out of astronomy. I got a C in oceanography.
I'm telling you, Sarah.
We
don't like the unknown.
No, that's it, right? And like, I was like, this is too much for me. I can't take it.
Yeah.
I can't. This is too much. They just zoomed out on Earth, and I'm like, no, I'm out.
No, thank
Bye.
you.
No, thank you. No,
Let's
thank
get
you.
back to hitchhiking.
Yeah, right.
The good old days. No zooming out.
You know, when there were serial killers. Yeah.
All right. That's all for now. Just you guys that buy our merch and support us. It's so meaningful, and we appreciate it.
Best. We love you guys so much.
We love
Cute
you.
stuff out there.
Yes. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.
Bye.